Hello everybody and welcome to this latest edition of The Money Man. And today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be discussing one of the best polymer series of banknotes ever to be produced. And of course we're going to be talking about the New Zealand 7th series of polymer banknotes. So let's get right into it. Let's have a look at the lowest denomination, the $5 note. Here we go. So this is part of the 7th series of New Zealand polymer dollar bills, and you can see that there is a reflective depiction of a native bird on the left side, and you will see that theme carry on throughout this entire series. And what we have there is the Hoi-Ho penguin. The centre of the note is dominated by a portrait of Sir Edmund Hillary and an image of Mount Cook just to his left. Sir Edmund Percival Hillary was a New Zealand mountaineer, explorer, and philanthropist. On the 29th of May 1953, he and his Sherpa mountaineer companion, Tenzing Norgay, successfully reached the summit of Mount Everest. Just to the right of Sir Edmund is an ornate clear window with a reflective image which features a geographical depiction of New Zealand, the iconic New Zealand fern, the Hoi-Ho penguin, and the denomination of 5. Woven into the background of the note is a traditional Maori textile pattern known as keo keo, and you will see lots of Maori patterns going throughout the different denominations in this series, and they're all very beautiful and add a really nice flavour to the banknotes. Let's have a look at the reverse of this one. Now you can see that the theme of flora and fauna is very strong throughout this entire series, and you can see that we've got the same Hoi-Ho penguin depicted on the reverse, but we've got a more natural realistic image this time. And what you actually see opposite the Hoi-Ho is a rose lily bushel, and the Hoi-Ho is also known as the yellow-eyed penguin or tarakaka. And it's a species that is endemic to New Zealand. Now let's have a look at the next denomination, the 10 New Zealand dollar note. Now this banknote is really interesting because it features an image of Kate Sheppard, who was one of the most prominent members of the women's suffrage movement in New Zealand and the country's most famous suffragist. Kate Sheppard promoted women's suffrage by organising petitions and public meetings, by writing letters to the press, and by developing contacts with politicians. To her left is an image of a white camellia, easily identifiable by its creamy white blooms. The bird represented in the reflective image is of a wild blue duck. Now let's have a look at the reverse. Now you can see that same wild blue duck on the reverse as well, and it's a duck species commonly found in New Zealand. To the left of the duck and her ducklings, you can see that there is a keo keo fern, commonly known as the palm leaf fern. This is not to be confused with the iconic silver fern. It is not the same species of plant. You actually see the silver fern on a lot of these banknotes because it is sort of the de facto image of New Zealand, but it is not actually New Zealand's national flower, interestingly enough. So let's have a look at the next one, the $20 note, and I absolutely love this banknote. It is absolutely gorgeous. The 20 New Zealand dollar bill in this series has to be definitely my favourite of the 5 denominations. The banknote is dominated by this wonderful image of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, reigning monarch of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland and the British Commonwealth of Nations, which New Zealand is, of course, a major part. It is important to note that Her Majesty is wearing a sash with the silver fern attached, the national emblem of New Zealand, but not its national flower, remember. To the left of Queen Elizabeth II is the Beehive, the executive wing of the New Zealand Parliament buildings located in the nation's capital, Wellington. It was Queen Elizabeth II who officially opened the building on the 28th of February 1977. The bird featured in the reflective image is a New Zealand falcon in flight, a wonderful bird which we will see again on the reverse. Let's have a look. So there is that beautiful, beautiful falcon once again. The reverse also features the same image, the same bird, and this time it's guarding its nest. The species is New Zealand's only falcon and is frequently mistaken for the larger, more common swamp harrier. Sadly, in recent times, this bird of prey has become endangered, and there are only believed to be between 3,000 and 5,000 mating pairs left in the wild. To the left of the falcon, you can see a Marlborough Rock daisy, a genus of shrub in the daisy family. So I've got to say that this is probably my favourite banknote. I know I've said that before, but the reason is not just because it's got a wonderful portrait of Queen Elizabeth II on, but I just love the overall colour scheme and the depiction of this gorgeous bird on the reverse. I really, really like the portrait. It's a very, very nice banknote indeed. Let's have a look at the next one. Here comes the 50. Now you can see this beautiful 50 New Zealand dollar note continues the trend of absolutely gorgeous colour schemes, as something that really makes this series stand out amongst polymer banknotes across the world. Just the sheer beauty and vibrancy of the different colour palettes that are used. And what it does, it actually makes all the different denominations very distinctive. It's very easy to tell the value of each banknote just from afar by looking at the colour schemes, and I think that's something that this series does particularly well. Now, if we have a look at the front of the note, you can see it's dominated by a portrait of Sir Apriana Ngata, and he was a prominent Maori statesman, probably the most prominent Maori statesman and politician ever to serve in the New Zealand Parliament. And in keeping with the theme of administration and decision making, to the left of him you can actually see a traditional Maori meeting house. Now these have often been confused as places of religious worship, and although it may be true that they may sometimes have depictions or statues of Maori deities inside, this isn't actually a religious building. From what I can ascertain, it seems to be a meeting place where community issues are discussed. So that's why I believe it fits in with the theme of administration. However, if there are any people out there, any Maori people that can elaborate a little bit more on what the specific reason for the Maori communal meeting house is, I would love to know, because it's a fascinating structure, and I think it obviously holds some significant importance to Maori culture to be featured on this gorgeous banknote. You can see the reflective image features a kokako, which is another native bird, which we'll look at in more detail in a moment. So let's have a look at the reverse. So you can see that wonderful kokako bird again, sat on a little bluff just there, and you can see just under his beak he's got a little sort of blue crest, and that's interesting how it fits in with the sort of blue colour scheme of the centre of the reverse of the banknote. And that's something that's continued by the portrait of the two sky blue mushrooms just to the left. Unfortunately, this species of forest bird depicted on the back of the note is considered endangered, as their population appears to be confined to New Zealand's North Island alone. So it's not a species that can be found across all of New Zealand's islands. Sadly, they are only still surviving on New Zealand's North Island. So that's kind of sad. But hopefully through conservation efforts, this bird will thrive in the future. The final denomination, and arguably the most visually stunning, but not my favourite however, is the 100 New Zealand dollar note. This note features Ernest Rutherford, who was a New Zealand-born British physicist and later became known as the father of nuclear physics. His Nobel Prize, awarded to him in the field of chemistry, can be seen just to the left. Rutherford's work has come to be seen as the most important work since the pioneering efforts of Michael Faraday. The reflective image features a mahua, or yellow-head bird, And you can see that on the left hand side again, keeping that theme of birds being represented on the obverse of the notes as reflective images. So let's have a look at the back. Here we go. So again, you can see that lovely little bird again. Continuing the trend with birds, the theme of birds, you can see the mohua sat restfully on a red beech branch. And again, you've got those subtle little hints that complement the colour scheme. You know, we've got the red beech branch, which is quite interesting. In the background, we can actually see Eglinton Valley, a site of significant natural beauty in New Zealand. And far to the left, there is a depiction of the South Island lichen moth. So another bit of sort of wildlife, New Zealand wildlife, represented on the reverse of this banknote. And I just love the color scheme, and I love the patterns, and just the harmony of the note is very, very nice. It's not over complicated. If you look at the front and the back of the banknotes, you're only dealing with 2 or 3 large images at the most. And what makes up the rest of the banknotes basically is the silver fern, the clear window, and the lovely Maori patterns that go through the banknote. The different banknotes, sorry. And I think that's just enough. This is arguably one of the most beautiful series of banknotes ever produced in modern times, and that's why I love it so much. And it's taken me quite some time to actually piece it together, because I've had the 100 and I've had the 10 for a very long time, and it's only recently that I managed to get hold of the other denominations, because I like to try and get hold of my banknotes at face value. I don't want to pay for them unless they are quite obscure or impossible to get at face value. So I was patient, and when I finally put it together, I was very, very happy with it. I think this series is absolutely gorgeous. Let me know what you think in the comments about this one. I think it's a really, really nice series. So yeah, that's all I've got time for today. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you guys on the next one. It's a Money Man, signing out for now. Bye-bye.